In today's video, we're going to be going over some more vehicles in GTA 5 that have been forgotten about. Over the years, there have been so many new vehicles, and it's pretty obvious that with all of these new vehicles coming out, a lot of the other vehicles in the game will slowly start to fade away, and a lot of people are going to forget about them. But some of those vehicles are still really awesome, and they bring back some great memories from back in the day. So that's what we're going to be going over, because you guys enjoyed last episode so much, so I decided to make another one. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see episode 3 of this, be sure to smash a like on the video and subscribe if you are new to the channel as well. With that said, I hope you guys go on to enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get into it. The very first vehicle is the Hot Knife. Now, back in the day, this was a very sought after vehicle, especially on PS3 and Xbox 360. Modders were able to spawn them in for us so we could drive them around, but we can never actually keep them in our garages, which sucked. They were only available to those people who play GTA Online on the PS4 and Xbox One. Or if you bought the collector's edition of GTA 5 back then, you'd be able to drive this car and I believe 2 other cars around. Now when I played back then, I rarely ever saw the Hot Knife driving around. Like, nobody ever had this thing. If you went onto the Legendary Motorsports website, it would just say the vehicle was out of stock, which was so annoying, which just made us want it even more, because if it's something that you can't have, you just want it more, you know what I mean? So whenever a modder popped up, I always asked them to spawn it for me, and I used to drive it around because it was awesome. And don't forget, back then there was way less vehicles in the game. So when we would go on Legendary Motorsports and it showed that it was out of stock, we really wanted to drive them around because there wasn't a ton of like insane vehicles back then. We're talking about PS3 and Xbox 360 days of GTA Online. That was a very long time ago, at least it is for most people. Once most people started to transition over to next-gen consoles like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, it became available for purchase, which was awesome. It made a lot of people really happy, and it was definitely really popular. Until people realized it honestly wasn't really the best vehicle in the world. Yeah, it had a few cool customizations. You could remove the fenders, and you can make it have a pretty big engine on it, but those are really the main customizations available for the vehicle. And then afterwards, Rockstar started releasing a ton of awesome vehicles, and then this thing just started to fade off into the distance. And by the way, this is just for me, but it's more rare for me to see a Hot Knife driving around than it is for me to see a Lost Slam Van, which I actually see a lot more often now. So honestly, you just never see this thing being driven around by anyone anymore. It's extremely rare. It is still a really cool muscle car, but its days of being sought after by most of the community are now over. The next vehicle that's been forgotten about in GTA Online is the Romero Hearse. This used to be a rare vehicle to have in GTA 5. Yes, a hearse. Some of the newer players are like, what the hell? Why the hell was this thing rare? Well, I'll tell you why right now. A long time ago, you weren't able to purchase this vehicle, much like other vehicles, for instance, like the Lost Slam Van, the special version of the Dubsta, the Space Stalker, and a couple other vehicles. The only way you could get your hands on this car was if somebody already had one and they drove you over to the church, and doing that would trigger a spawn and you'd see the vehicle there. The only way you could get it back then was if a modder actually spawned one in for you and gave it to you. As it is a street vehicle, you could just drive it straight inside your garage. I remember I was able to have someone take me to the church so I could get one, and from that point on, for like the next month or so, I was constantly driving other people over there so that they could get their hands on this thing too. The car isn't fast, the performance is terrible, and it has 0 customizations except window tint and the wheels, and of course like armor, engine, transmission, and that basic stuff, but that is all that it had. It was just a rare vehicle, and a lot of people really wanted it. So good old Rockstar decided, you know what, let's give the community what they want. They decided to add it to Southern San Andreas Super Autos and make it available for purchase for a couple $1,000s, which was cool, but nobody cared. Do you want to know why? Because everybody was able to purchase it at that point. The only reason anybody wanted this car was because of its rarity. Like, think of the Lost Slam Van. That's a rare vehicle. It's sought after by a lot of people in the community. But if it was on one of the websites that you could just purchase it off of, do you think it would still be as popular and that many people would want it? You could probably purchase it for maybe like $50,000 or something like that. It would just be a regular slam van with some decals on it. It just wouldn't be as popular. The same thing applies with the hearse right here. nobody wants it anymore because everybody could buy it. It's still a cool vehicle that you can get completely free if you just drive one of them over to the church. It doesn't sell for a lot of money, and honestly there really isn't too much of a purpose for it, but it's still pretty cool. By the way, be sure to check out Digizani. They'll hook you up with tons of discounted games and in-game currency for dozens of your favorite games, like GTA 5, Fortnite, and many more. Don't forget to use code Frolics at checkout for a 10% discount. Next up, we have the RE7B. This car was the best of the best when it was released. Hands down, the most overpowered vehicle in the entire game. And if you put a few specific upgrades on it, it would drastically improve the performance of the car. Everyone had one, and we all used to use it in races, and it was fun as hell. The car was amazing, but then Rockstar saw how overpowered it was, and they nerfed it. They nerfed the shit out of this car, which sucked. And it became somewhat of an average vehicle, and people realized it right away. Slowly, everybody stopped using it, and now the only time you ever see anyone driving this car in a race is when you do a race, but you don't have a custom car. And the only options are this car and a few other vehicles. That's practically the only time I ever see it anymore, unless somebody brings it to a car show because they got some cool customizations on it. Because honestly, the car is pretty damn sick. Like, it's a nice looking car. It's just, they nerfed it and made it an average vehicle. I have so many great memories from back when this car came out. When I was still a young kid who played video games 24/7 with all my friends after school. We did races, heists, all kinds of really fun shit. But time goes on, and y'all grow up. And slowly things that you used to do will never happen again. That's kind of sad and depressing, but it's much like this car. It'll most likely never be used by most of you guys that are watching this video right now, and it'll slowly fade off into the distance with a lot of other awesome vehicles from back in the day. The RE7B, it honestly had a great run, but sadly, its time is up. And finally, we have the Stinger. I know there's probably a lot of people who don't even know what this car is. The 3 trim levels available for the Stinger have been available since the game's launch, and back in the day, it was a fairly popular car. It has a cool body style that many people enjoyed, and the GT version was fairly expensive, sitting at a price of $875,000, and that was expensive. $875K back when GTA 5 first came out, that was a lot of money. Only $125,000 cheaper than the most expensive vehicle in the game, obviously being the Adder, which was $1 million. Those were the days. Those actually were the freaking good old days, man. A $1 million car. That was seen as extremely expensive and a huge flex if you owned one. If you had 3 of them, you were ballin'. Like, you were rich, Jeff Bezos rich, guys. Like, that, it was just insane back then. The Stinger was honestly a pretty popular car up until more classic sports cars started to be released. I really never used it that much, but tons of people love driving it around. I saw it all the time. And then other vehicles like the 190Z were released, and it made the Stinger die off because, yeah, the car is cool, but it doesn't have a ton of customizations. It actually doesn't have any customizations. The one I'm driving in this video right now is actually fully maxed out. It looks the exact same as it would if it was bone stock. And this one specifically, the GT version, I wasn't even able to put a livery on it, which was kind of strange. I could have sworn there was liveries available for this car, but maybe it was just the regular Stinger. I don't know. But the GT version is based off of a Ferrari GTO. That shit is nice. I believe like the last one sold for like 50 mil in real life. It's a nice car. It would just be a little better if it had a couple cool customizations, you know what I mean? But anyways, when the newer cars started to come out with more customizations, cars with less customizations weren't as sought after by the community and slowly started to fade off. Honestly, if you guys have the money, I'd recommend taking a quick trip back in time in your time machine there and driving around some of these older cars. It won't cost you a lot of money, but it'll definitely bring back some memories from back in the day if you drove them around the city of Los Santos a few years back, because I know a lot of you have been playing GTA 5 for years on end, so driving some of these cars around might bring up some old memories that you completely forgot about. Anyways, that's pretty much going to wrap the video up for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you guys want to see a part 3 to this series, be sure to drop a like on the video. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.